In a small city laundromat, a painter steps in when an attendant blames a teen for a jammed washer and refuses a refund. She spends her last cash and even loses a half-day's pay to help him wash his mother's scrubs, setting off a quiet shift in the room. Others follow with small offerings, and the attendant posts a Spanish instruction sign, while the painter and teen reveal the burdens they carry without asking for pity. Before we dive in, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And hey, where are you tuning in from? Leave your country in the comments. I love seeing how far these stories reach. The laundromat smelled like warm pennies and detergent. I sat in a cracked orange chair, with my knees bouncing and paint still dry on my knuckles. The neon open sign buzzed in the front window like a fly that never got tired. Overhead, a TV flashed a game show with the sound off, captions running too fast. A skinny plant leaned in a chipped pot by the door. It was early, but the fluorescent lights made it feel like midnight no matter the hour. The machines hummed. The change machine clanked. My bag of rags and drop cloth sat at my feet like a small, soft dog. He was hard to see because he didn't take up space. A kid, maybe 14, in a navy hoodie with the school logo cracked across the chest. He kept his head down. He had a little sister with him, maybe 4, in a pink puffer coat, even though it was warm inside. She held a yellow giraffe by one ear. He counted quarters in his palm twice, lips moving, then slipped them into a top loader like he was breaking into a safe. People stepped around him but didn't really see him. A woman checked her watch. A delivery guy pushed past with a basket on one hip. The kid looked at the door every few seconds, like he didn't trust it to stay there. The top loader blinked 3 like a little red insult. He hit the start button again. Nothing. Nothing. The light just blinked, sharp and mean. Beep. Beep. He tapped the side of the washer with the pad of his hand, careful, like he knew machines took things personal. The little girl tugged his sleeve and pointed at the bubbles in someone else's machine, round and thick and full of tiny rainbows. He swallowed. He pressed the coin return. No clink, no relief. He looked down at the little pile of dirty scrubs and a few small shirts at his feet, then at the quarters he had left, which was not enough. "You kids always jam the coin slots," the man in the red polo said. He came out of the back wiping his hands on a rag, keys clacking at his hip. Late 50s, tired face, that stiff way people stand when they've been barked at all morning. He didn't look at the machine. He looked at the hoodie, at the little girl's shoes, at the bag that wasn't quite a laundry bag. "Sign says no refunds," he added, tapping a laminated paper with a finger. It had 3 fonts and a coffee stain. A woman near the folding table muttered, "Shouldn't they be in school?" without looking up from her phone. The kid's mouth opened and closed. It blinked," he said, "barely there." The little girl stuck her giraffe's nose against the round glass and left a foggy circle. "Hey," I said, standing up. It came out normal, like I was asking for the remote. The man's head turned. The kid glanced at me, then away. I walked over, my boots squeaking on the clean parts of the floor. "It's not jammed. It's error code 3. Water fill. Your hose is slow," I said. This was the kind of place where you knew the codes after a while. He squinted at me like a smoke alarm he wanted to swat. "He needs a refund," I said, softer. The little girl's eyes were on me, wide and careful. I bent a bit and made a face at the giraffe's fog stain. She almost smiled around her thumb. I dumped my wallet on the plastic chair. Coins rolled, loud, in a room full of coins. A bus pass slid out and stopped under the chair. 4 ones, a 5. I pushed them into the change machine and took the heavy warm quarters in my hands. "How many loads?" I asked the kid. He stared at the floor. 2, he said. "Soap?" I asked. He nodded at a bag with a cracked bottle. I bought a little blue box from the machine anyway and handed it to the little girl. She held it like a prize. I fed the quarters to a different washer, the top loader 2 down, with the dented lid, then another. The red polo watched, arms crossed. The kid said, "You don't have to," which is the thing people say when they need it. "I know," I said. I called my boss and took the hit. "We're tight today," he said in my ear, already rushing. "Trim's got to dry by 5. I could see it in my head, the creamy line along the ceiling, the white that only looks white until the next white sits beside it. "I can't make the 9, I said, and waited for the splash. "Half day," he said after a pause. I felt the shape of the missing money in the same way you feel a missing tooth with your tongue. "Okay," I said, and hung up. I bought a pack of peanut butter crackers from the vending machine and set it next to the little girl. She looked at her brother for permission. He nodded and she ate slow, like she was saving half for the giraffe later. The whole room softened when the dryers kicked in. Warm air pushed at our shins and climbed to our faces. The sound turned steady instead of sharp. The little girl laughed at the window like it was a comedy show. Only she could see socks and shirts, and one blue sleeve with a tag that flashed around and around. The delivery guy held the door with his foot for a minute to let in some real air. The woman with the phone put it down. The student with the big headphones tugged one ear off to hear the registers better and smiled at nobody. The kid's shoulders dropped an inch. That inch felt like a mile. He taped out of order in blue painter's tape. The red polo came back with a roll pulled from a drawer and a permanent marker. He peeled a strip with his teeth and wrote fast, block letters, then stuck it across the face of the mean machine like you stick a bandage on a knee. He twisted his key in the side panel, and the blinking stopped. "My bad," he said, not really looking at anyone in particular. He slid 2 quarters across the counter toward the kid. It wasn't a refund and it wasn't nothing. He went back in the office and didn't close the door all the way. While we folded, little things slid out. The kid held up a scrubbed top like a flag and smoothed the chest with his hand. The badge clip glinted. "They smell like bleach at work," he said. "But if I don't wash them, the kids cough." I promised my mom. He didn't say where she was, but he said night shift and double, and I saw the circles under his eyes like bruises from a fight you can't see. The girl pushed the giraffe's feet into little pairs of socks and set them in a row. "My dad gets confused when the dryer beeps," I said, folding towels tight. "If I do laundry early, he sleeps through it." I didn't say the rest. The pills lined up next to the stove, the cracked phone screen, the calendar with pink squares around rent days. We just stood there, making stacks out of wrinkles. The student with the headphones taped a ziplock of dryer sheets to the soda machine. Big block letters on a sticky note said, "Take one," in bubble letters with a face drawn next to it. She did it quick, shy about it, then pretended to study the ceiling when the red polo looked over. A pair of guys who had walked in loud got quiet. One of them pulled a dryer clear and made room for someone else without being asked. The little girl kept watching the window, curls tied up in a crooked elastic I pulled off my wrist for her. An older woman left a Dixie cup of quarters by the change machine. She set it down like it might crack the counter and taped a little note to it. In cursive, it said, "For when it eats yours." The red polo squinted at it, then shrugged and turned back to his computer. When the kid drifted over, he didn't touch the cup. He put 2 of his own quarters in it and walked back like he thought no one saw. The red polo printed out a sheet with the washer instructions in Spanish and taped it under the English one. He didn't announce it. He just pressed the tape smooth with his thumb and went back to the back room. On his way out, the boy lifted a basket for a man with a cane. He held the door with his hip and balanced the weight on his knee like he'd carried heavier. The cane man looked surprised and then not surprised, like maybe he remembered being that strong at that age. The kid set the basket in the trunk without being asked, then stood back with his hands in his hoodie pocket, shy again. The little girl reached for my hand, sticky with cracker crumbs, and I let her. She pressed her giraffe's ear against my palm and held it there, as if heat could move that way too. My phone buzzed. A text from a guy on my crew said, "We caught the trim. You owe me a donut, Picasso." It was a joke and not a rescue. The hole in my hours still sat where it sat. Most rooms ask for coins or silence. Some ask for a little heat. A laundromat isn't quiet, but it can be a place where everyone keeps their eyes on their own soap unless someone looks up. I thought about my dad and the way he stands at the window and stares at nothing while the kettle whines. I thought about the kid and his hands raw from winter and bleach and the way he kept counting past 0. I thought about the red polo and his keys and his face when he wrote out of order, like he could fix more than a machine if he wanted to. It wasn't a big gesture. It wasn't heroic. It was a morning that had some weight to it, and none of us dropped it. In the round window, a blue scrub top pressed to the glass and kept going. The neon sign buzzed. The tape on the mean machine held. The little giraffe's face reflected on the glass for a second, stretched by the curve, and then it was only a sleeve and a sock and warm air and the hum that makes everything feel like it might come out okay.